Hey guys, what's up? So we're here on quarantine, as I'm sure many of you are in this coronavirus time that we're all in. Hope that you're keeping your minds busy, staying productive, staying healthy. Got my little baby Peanut here. He's certainly happy about the quarantine. Gets more cuddle time. Oh, buddy. So, given that we're on quarantine, I figured I would take this opportunity to discuss another important topic. Um, I wanted to talk about transgenderism because I'm seeing this phenomenon that I see a lot actually, where it's kind of like a Dunning-Kruger effect. And for those who aren't familiar, a Dunning-Kruger effect is when your confidence on a topic is inversely proportional to your knowledge on the topic. So the less you know, the more confident you are on the topic. And it's a common, cognitive fault in humans where a lot of humans do this. It is very typical for a human to be very confident on something that they know jack shit about. So, transgenderism is one of them. It's very similar to evolution or global warming in the sense that I have almost never seen someone who actually understands evolution disagree with it. I have almost never seen someone who actually understands global warming disagree with it. There are a few rare exceptions, and those are interesting. I definitely enjoy talking to those people, but 99% of the people who say global warming is a hoax, or that man isn't causing it, or that evolution isn't true, then you start to dig into it and you start to, you know, ask them about the topic, and you quickly figure out, oh, you literally don't understand it at all. You literally don't even have a fundamental grasp of the topic, and yet you disagree with it. Interesting. Transgenderism is another one of those topics where virtually every single person, perhaps every single person that I've ever encountered talk about transgenderism that thinks that it's bad or thinks it's a mental illness, they show that they don't understand it. They show that they have fundamental mishaps in the concept itself. So I wanted to go through some things. First things first, sex and gender, they're different. And you can talk about them not being different all you want. Factually, you're wrong. They are different things. Now, the confusion arises because they are often interchangeably used. People will swap them in senses. Even people, that are experts will misuse them in an interchangeable sense. So I can understand the confusion at first. But once you have been explained the difference, it's really simple. It's not complex. And so the fact that so many people allegedly fail to grasp the differentiation leads me to believe that they want to not understand it, or they do understand it and they're faking like they don't. Oh, forgot to address this, by the way. I'm not a cowboy or a guy about to rob a bank. Can't be too careful if you're going out with the coronavirus. My makeshift face mask, basically. Can't cough on people through it. Anyways, sidetrack. Um, yeah, my thinking is that people they they have biases that lead them to not admitting the differentiation because it's so simple. Sex is your biology. It is defined by things such as your sexual organs. Do you have a penis or a vagina? It's what you're born as. Nobody denies that. Even a transgender person doesn't deny that they were born a male or a female. They don't act like they weren't born a male or a female. They fully admit that they were born one or the other. Gender, on the other hand, is how your behavior and psychology align with social constructs. So they're two different things, and they don't have to be the same. It's like saying I'm an engineer and a husband. They are two separate categories. There's nothing contradictory about me being an engineer and a husband. A husband is a reference to my marital status, an engineer is a reference to my career status. Gender and sex, similarly, don't have to align because they don't refer to the same thing. Sex is a reference to your biological status, gender is a reference to your psychology and behavior as it relates to social constructs. For most people, they are the same. For example, I'm a dude by sex, I have a penis, but I'm also a male by gender because my psychology and behavior matches that of the social norms for males. Probably 99% of people, their gender and their sex match, but they don't have to. There's absolutely no need for them to. And if they are different things, there's no inherent contradiction there at all. None. Topic two is that, I feel like people, they really want to only use the biology. And they act like, oh, well, we should definitely use biology because it's a hard science. And that's a whole nother topic because the difference between hard science and soft science is not as simple as most people think. Um, it's not like soft science bad, hard science good. And I say that as someone in one of the hard science fields. But here's an interesting analogy. People often say, oh, we should stick to the biology. We should just do that. You're not really a male or a female unless you're a male biologically or a female biologically. And yet, with other topics, they're super good about realizing the difference between a social construct and the biology. The best analogy that I've heard is the parent analogy. If someone is an adoptive parent, right, they adopted a child, say when they were 2 months old, and they raise that child until they're 18 and they care for it, give them resources, love them, they are their adoptive parent. We call them their parent because of their psychology and behavior with respect to the social norm of what we refer to as parenthood. They have no biological connection to that kid whatsoever. They are not the biological parent of that child. And yet, when they say, oh, yeah, I am the parent of this child, nobody bats an eye. We're all like, yeah, of course you are. No one says, well, biologically you're not. Well, it doesn't count because you don't have the same DNA. Nobody says that. Why? Because we don't have inherent biases against that topic. It's the exact same with sex and gender. The differentiation is exactly the same. You don't have to be the biology. You can have psychology and behavioral norms matching social norms. The only reason that people accept the parent analogy and don't accept the sex and gender is because they have inherent biases against it. Religious biases, political biases. Maybe it just grosses them out to think that people behave differently than they do. Who knows? Insecurity in most cases. Um, and then the next thing that is important to talk about is that most people that show the most ignorance or the highest amount of ignorance on this topic will come back to this central theme of transgenderism is a mental illness. They have something wrong in their head. Incorrect. Fully incorrect. Undebatably incorrect. Non-debatably? Undebatably. I'll have to look that up later. False. In every possible way. The DSM-5, which is the current most updated version of this book that contains all mental illnesses and disorders, as described by thousands of experts and constantly being updated, does not consider transgenderism to be a mental illness due to the evidence. What they do consider to be a mental illness is gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria and transgenderism are different things. Gender dysphoria is when someone feels internal conflict, stress due to their gender not matching their sex. Transgenderism is just their gender not matching their sex. So gender dysphoria is when you feel stress due to transgenderism. But not all transgenders feel that. Moreover, there are a lot of studies out there that suggest that the reason people feel stress from their transgenderism is societal treatment. A lot of transgender people do not feel stress due to their transgenderism when they're in a loving environment, an accepting environment, when their friends and family say, yeah, you're one sex and a different gender, and that's totally fine. No big deal. Those transgenders don't feel any stress. By definition, a disorder or a mental illness has to cause harm to the person. One of those common harms is mental distress. If your transgenderism doesn't cause mental distress or harm to you in any way, by definition, it's not a mental disorder. And that's why the DSM-5 declassified transgenderism and no longer considers it a mental disorder, because of the hard evidence. It's just science. It's so funny when people are like, oh, these liberals saying that people can be a man and a woman at the same time are denying science. Literally the opposite. It's literally the exact opposite. Those saying that you can't be a male by gender and a female by sex are denying the hard science, the expert consensus. That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. got a little sidetracked there again. So, and I apologize, by the way, if I have misused any terminology. I think that people who are transgender is probably the most appropriate term rather than transgenders or transgender people. So if I misspoke there, I am sorry in advance. That just not thinking clearly enough about my verbiage. So, when you're discussing this topic, you need to be consulting with evidence. You need to be consulting with what the experts are saying, with what the science is telling us. And most people that are denying transgenders transgender people's reality, most people that are saying that they're fucked up in the head or that they have a mental illness, they have no evidence. They have absolutely nothing to go on. They are literally just basing it on some opinion that they pulled out of their ass or something that their priest or pastor told them. Where are you basing this? I don't understand. This is a topic that it's really simple to understand. The difference between sex and gender is really simple. It's scientifically valid. It's not a mental disorder by definition and according to all the evidence. And so you have to wonder what insecurity is driving so many of these people to form this opinion that's not grounded in anything. That's probably about where I'm going to wrap this up.